All right, what I've got is a 7.3 liter diesel fuel injector. We're going to totally disassemble this injector, give you a couple of helpful hints, a couple of the tricks to get it apart, and get the thing cleaned up. And really the thing is just getting good, firm, pressure down on everything. I get all four broke loose. Nothing's going to come flying apart, nothing's going to fall out. I'm going to take all four of my screws, just set them off to the side. Basically this guy's going to come off all on its own there. Sometimes this lower spacer will stick to it, sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. There's our solenoid, so I'm going to take it and set it off to the side. Everything I set to the side, I set in an order, this hole facing forward, this plug facing forward, this threaded hole facing forward. It's just, I orient everything that way, coming apart, going together, make things easier. So there's that. Your spacer's going to come off right there. This is the one that's really important to have a lot of down pressure on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it with crescent wrench, and then a lot of down pressure. If you don't, you'll round the head off. And this screw I'm not going to reuse. The injector rebuild kit comes with a new screw with a Torx head. So basically I'm just using the tool that came with the rebuild kit to get the OE screw out. Then that's that. Now we just need to take these four screws out of the top. There is a little bit of spring pressure under this. Nothing's going to come flying apart. Just put some down pressure on it, and then get all your Torx here. Alright, so we're going to pull that guy there off. Got my four screws sitting there. I take it, I'm going to set it off to the side. I'll show you disassembly of that also. I'm going to take the hold down clamp off, set it off to the side as well. Then what I've got here is I've got the plunger and the spring. So you don't really have a huge mess going at this point. I take a paper towel and I just kind of set it around the base, because once you break that loose, you start leaking some oil out the bottom because the plunger has come out of its seat. So that's just going to catch some of my oil at the bottom. I'm going to take the plunger out. And there is a spring on the plunger. I'll set it off to the side as well. So basically now, at this point, I can take the upper half, the oil side, away from the lower half, the fuel side. So I'm going to get So I've broken it loose at this point, and what I'm going to do with my other hand is touch the injector tip and just make sure we are all turning together, and we are. There's a series of pins inside that hold everything together, so I just want to make sure I don't have broken pins, or we'll see when we get it open, but at least I know it's coming apart the way that it should. A little bit of pressure on, a little bit of spring pressure, but it's not going to come flying up. It just pops right up. So, I mean, that's all there is. It's not going to come flying apart. So at this point, when you pull this off, you're going to lose some oil at this point. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to pull it up, hold it just like this. Nothing's going to fall out of it. We do have disassembly and cleaning to do, but I'm going to set it off to the side for that process. So now we're into the fuel side of the injector. And basically what we have here, two pieces are going to come out. These two here, I'm going to set them off to the side. Then, if you can see down inside, there's actually a couple of pins inside there, and I'm turning the nozzle so you can see. And it's going to turn really freely once it's clean. Right now it's so dirty, there's just a lot of junk there, so I'm going to pull out my pins. And then a lot of guys, you can just dump this out onto the table. There's really only one way to put it together, and there's a lot of markings, transfer marks from where two pieces have been together. So if you clean it and look at it, you're going to see how it's come apart. I'm going to take it apart a little slower here rather than dumping it out. Just, by the time you're on your 8th injector, you're going to be way more comfortable doing this. But on your first one, you just don't really know you know, what's going to fall out of this thing when you take it apart. So all I did, I put my tweezers down the center, spread it out to pull this out. And I'm not just pulling it away from the hole, I'm kind of holding it there because sometimes the other pins will stick in it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this piece. Nothing's going to fall off of it. Put it in order. Now down inside we've got, you know, 2 more pins. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them out. And those pins, those 4 I've taken out now, the 2 top and these other 2, they're the same length. So you can't really mix them up. And then there's a short set of pins that we haven't gotten to yet. So I'll get to those as well. So I'm just reaching in, grabbing this guy here. And you are going to have to reassemble it oriented the way it was, but there's going to be wear marks as far as what was top and what was bottom. Even after you clean it, you're going to see the way it was assembled and put together. And after it's all clean, we'll kind of take a peek at that. So that next piece that's there, you got to be very careful. There's a ball bearing here, and there's another small piece here. So these 2 pieces, you know, you kind of got to watch for when you disassemble it. So I've got 2 pieces, ball bearing and that. Reaching down inside, I've got a spring and a pin. And the more comfortable you get with it, you may end up just dumping it all out at once. But for your first one or your first couple, you kind of want to take it apart this way. So the other pieces that are inside of here, I'm actually going to get a paper towel, tap it to get this loose. There is a barrel that's totally stuck to my nozzle because I've got so much carbon and junk down inside the injector. You're going to have a little diesel fuel come out of it, which is fine. But at this point, what I'm going to do, I'm not hitting it with anything. I just put pressure on it, just pushing it. So my copper washer was hanging me up too, but so's all this carbon and everything else. You can see how easily it moves now. So what I'm going to do is just, there's my barrel right there. I'm going to set it off to the side. Where the spring was sitting, set it off to the side. And I'm going to set all those pieces in order, and then 2 small pins. One of them stayed in my barrel, so I'm going to set it off as well. And then all I've got is my nozzle, and then there's a pin in the nozzle that we'll get out here shortly. So, you know, normally I take all my external O-rings and my copper sealing washer off before I stick it in the vise, and I didn't do that, but really that's what you're going to do first. As the injector is whole, you're going to take off our copper sealing washer, and then take off each of the external O-rings on the injector. We can still do it now as we tear it down, and I'll kind of show you that. So really I line my parts up in, you know, oil side and fuel side. So pretty much my fuel side is here, my oil side is there. Everything will get cleaned, but before I clean it, really I start at the top. Those 4 screws I took out, I come down to this guy here from the oil side, what I took off. There's an O-ring in this piece that comes in your rebuild kit that you're going to need to disassemble this piece to replace that O-ring. So pretty well I just, my quarter nut driver here, I just use it to basically push this guy out, and I'm pushing it out from the top down. So where our screws go in, I'm pushing it out that direction, and there is an O-ring inside this body that we're going to clean, or that we're going to replace, I'm sorry. Well, gotta be in everything. Now, the piece that I took out, we can see some O-ring transfer on it. We're going to clean that. We're going to Scotch-Brite carb cleaner. There's 2 pieces here. When you take them apart, you'll see one side has wear just from sitting against this. One side does not. I always put it back together with the wear mating surfaces together once we get them cleaned up. So as I'm coming down here, you know, I'm disassembling. So now I come to my upper body right here, and on the upper body will be an O-ring that you couldn't see when you take the external O-rings off. So basically we're going to knock that O-ring off. A lot of guys cut them off, just pull it off. Then the plunger, there's another O-ring inside the body of this. that comes in the rebuild kit, and this guy here needs to come out, and there's no great way to get it out. So really, I'm going to recommend finding a good socket that fits the outside diameter of the top of the body, and then basically we're just going to tap, a little more than a tap, we're going to knock this guy out to get to our O-ring so we can replace that O-ring as well. So pretty well, I'm just going to hold it together. Not moving yet. Okay, you can see it started to move. Once it starts to move and come out, it's going to come out, well, right there by hand. Sometimes you got to give it some more tappy tap, but she went ahead and came out. So I'm going to set that down. And then inside, there's an O-ring that we're going to need to take out. Just a pick, slide down until I feel that groove. And then that O-ring right there comes out. So in your rebuild kit, you're going to have 3 O-rings for the internal, and this is where the 3 go, and that's that one there. So we've got those set off to the side. Now here at the shop I have an ultrasonic machine, and this is where I dump all the parts into a bin and clean them that way, and most people don't have an ultrasonic or access to it. So Scotch-Brite, carb cleaner, you know, just a lot of TLC and cleaning parts, and compressed air, of course, to blow everything off. You'll want to use a lint-free towel, those types of things. But really, before I reassemble anything, I soak everything in carb cleaner, blow it off with compressed air, and I'm pretty comfortable reassembling at that point. So really, the parts that you can use the wire wheel on, the parts you use the Scotch-Brite on, I'll kind of tell you what I do with what. So the nozzle here, you know, inside is still that, so we got to knock it out. So there we have 2 pieces. You know, I clean it with carb cleaner, wipe it dry, and then I will wire wheel this entire piece. So I'm going to set that to the side. This guy here, I'm just going to use a Scotch-Brite on, carb cleaner Scotch-Brite, clean it up really nice. The barrel, I will Scotch-Brite around the exterior, then I'll roll it up, clean the inside here. Sorry, both of these pieces that were top and bottom, you know, I'll go ahead and let the, there's our ball bearing right there. The kit comes with a new one, and then I'll just take this guy here out. So those 2 pieces there, I'm going to clean, and don't really worry what side is what. I mean, this only goes in one way, this only goes in one way, and then there's wear marks to show how they were mated. So Scotch-Brite on those guys as well. Carb cleaner Scotch-Brite. This is all fuel side. This piece here, I will use the wire wheel to clean, but before I do, we're going to take, there's a retaining ring on a ball bearing here. So what I'm going to do is just take the retaining ring off. I'm going to clean the retaining ring with Scotch-Brite. I'm going to go ahead and knock that ball out here. This is going to get, you know, carb cleaner, dry it off, wire wheel it, carb cleaner, air pressure, and she'll be ready to go back together. As far as the rest of the fuel side, you know, carb cleaner, compressed air. This guy here, I'm going to carb clean it. I am going to wire wheel the outside of it, the lower half of the injector body. I'm going to get in my O-ring grooves really clean. Then on the inside, I'm going to use Scotch-Brite, you know, a piece that's been cut down that I can go inside and really get after it internally, get it as clean as possible. A lot of carb cleaner, a lot of compressed air. So the inside I'm going to Scotch-Brite, the outside I'm going to wire wheel. The other internal fuel parts just need to be carb cleaner, compressed air. There's really nothing else to Scotch-Brite, but you can't hurt any of the pieces. So that is the fuel side. So instead of taping me Scotch-Briting each individual piece and wire wheeling it, I'm going to go ahead and get busy to get that done, and then I'll have it laid out for reassembly. When you come over to the oil side, a lot less wire wheeling. It's carb cleaner, dry towel, compressed air, those types of things to get all the rest of the oil side cleaned up. Now you are going to wire wheel the top of the body. I just worry about this O-ring groove down. From there up, Yeah, it doesn't make any difference how it, you know, you want it clean, but it doesn't have to be wire wheeled. There's no purpose for that. So from this O-ring groove down, we're going to clean up. On the inside of this, which is on the fuel side of things, I will Scotch-Brite and clean inside here. A lot of carb cleaner, up, down, you know, face it both directions. You've got holes on both sides. You've got a hole down inside. You know, just get it as clean and dry as possible. Gear wire wheeled, Scotch-Brite, spray it down again, air pressure, get it dry, and then we can start the reassembly process once all the parts are clean.